Okay, so Nintendo just released a new Switch model. We have all been waiting for a Switch Pro model for quite some time, and I don't think this is what most of us were expecting. Now, this is a more premium Switch model, and there's a lot of things you need to know about it before you decide to purchase one, but yeah, let's just get into it. So Nintendo today on Twitter just tweeted out that there's a new Switch. I don't know why they didn't announce this at E3, which was just like a couple weeks ago. I feel like if you had it in time to announce now, you would have also had it ready to announce at E3. But hey, forget all the hype and stuff like that. Nintendo thought the decision to just release it now apparently was the better choice with just a random tweet. And I guess it was kind of nice to just wake up to news and open Twitter and be like, oh, hey, new Nintendo Switch, how about that? So this Switch is coming in at $350, so it's only a $50 increase from the regular Switch. And the big upgrade here, or maybe like there's other upgrades. The big upgrade here is the OLED display. So the regular Switch has an LCD display. This new Switch will have an OLED display. Most of your smartphones, modern day flagship smartphones nowadays have OLED displays. High-end TVs have OLED displays. The PlayStation Vita from like 2012, was that 2012? It had an OLED display. It looked so good. The Vita was so ahead of its time. So this Nintendo Switch is gonna look a lot better. It's gonna have deeper black levels, higher contrast ratios. The screen should be a little bit more vivid than the standard LCD model. There's also some structural changes to the Switch too. So not only is this an OLED display, but Nintendo shrunk the huge bezels around the regular Switch, and that was like a 6.2-inch display, and now this OLED Switch will actually have a bigger 7-inch display. Now, because of this, the Switch is slightly heavier. It's gonna be 0.71 pounds versus the original Switch's weight, which was 0.66 pounds, and this Switch is actually going to be a little bit bigger than the original Nintendo Switch. So the unit overall looks a lot sleeker. They also adjusted the back of the Switch now to include a new kickstand style. So the regular Switch had this really flimsy flip-out kickstand that was almost like a joke. Like, it was so easy to knock over. It was so fragile in its design. And this Switch looks like it's basically taking like the Microsoft Surface stand, if you've ever seen one of those before, that little kick-out flip stand, like the whole back of it extends. So, obviously no one's used this Switch yet, but this design looks a lot more stable and a lot more premium. So that kickstand upgrade is actually looking really nice. The Switch also now comes default with white Joy-Cons, which I think look really sharp. This is very like PlayStation 5-esque of the black and white combo, but I really enjoy it. And there's also going to be another variant of this Switch sold with the red and blue Joy-Cons. And the battery life will be the same on this Switch as the newer Switch with the improved battery life, so we're looking at a 4 to 9 hour battery life rating, I guess, depending on the game you're playing. There's also a new design for the Nintendo Switch dock. It also has a wired Ethernet port built right in. The Switch unit itself has improved speakers when you're playing in handheld mode, so that should also be nice. The original Switch's speakers weren't actually all that great, and oftentimes I would just plug in like headphones into it, so having improved speakers could be a really nice upgrade. And this new OLED Switch is also getting an upgrade in storage, moving up from 32 gigabytes of storage to 64 gigabytes of storage. Not a huge difference, but hey, I'll take more internal memory. I really wish like Nintendo would offer an option, like maybe like a $400 option with like 128 gigabytes of storage. But I guess getting like a micro SD card really isn't that big of a deal. And honestly, upgrading the micro SD card is gonna end up being cheaper in the long run. Okay, so an OLED Switch for $350, $50 more than the original. For $50 more, I mean, if you're buying a new Switch today, honestly, I don't even see why you would go with the regular Switch at this point. For $50 more, on paper, it looks like you're just getting so much more. But we also have to address what this Switch isn't, or what we thought it would be and it isn't, and that is a Switch Pro. The OLED display is nice, and honestly, I got like a new LG OLED TV not too long ago, and just upgrading to OLED on my display was almost a bigger jump in graphics. Well, not graphics, but just like the way the visuals looked on my display than going from like a PS4 to a PS5. Like, OLED looks really, really nice. If you've ever owned the PS Vita, like, you know what I'm talking about. That OLED screen looks just fantastic. So I'm excited that the Switch is actually going to be getting a jump in display technology, but we're also not getting a higher resolution display, so it's still gonna be a 720p display. And then the long rumored thing with the Switch Pro was that when you would put it into the docked mode, that you would actually get 4K. Yeah, that's not happening. So when we're looking at the spec pages on Nintendo's website, we can still see that this Switch is still clearly just outputting to 1080p. So, you know, there's not gonna be any graphics upgrades on the Switch. Don't expect any better performance from your games. Don't expect, you know, higher resolution or higher frame rates, and don't expect it to support higher resolutions when it's actually in docked mode. And this model is just really confusing to me. Now, listen, I'm probably gonna get it. Like I said, OLED display, nice. I like the new visual style of the Switch. I like that they reduced the bezels on it. It looks like a more complete handheld unit, a bigger screen, all that stuff. I'm into it. I'll get it. But you know, it's very confusing for existing Switch owners. Is this actually enough to be worth the upgrade? You know, a dummy like me is gonna buy it. If you're on the Switch all the time, maybe having an OLED display is something you need, but I think for the vast majority of Nintendo Switch owners out there, this is a hard sell. This is a hard sell to say, hey, you know, upgrade to this model. For new Switch owners, I think this is probably the default model you should get. It's kind of confusing to me why Nintendo decided to keep the original Switch in the lineup. I know there's a difference in price point, $300 versus $350, but you know, if you're, you know, buying a Switch for the first time, I think the upgrades here for $50 more, yeah, it makes a ton of sense to just ignore the regular Switch and just skip right ahead to this OLED model. And then if you're really shopping on the low end, if you only care about portability, you're not gonna dock it into your TV, then of course you have the Switch Lite coming in at $200. Again, that price point still makes sense to me. I should also mention that this OLED model of the Switch is going to be going on sale on October 8th. No word yet if there will be any pre-orders before that date. I'm obviously thinking there will be, but I have no idea when pre-orders will start to open up. So yeah, new OLED Switch model, just wanted to get on, talk all about it, talk about some of the specs, things that are staying the same, and what this Switch is not. It's a nicer version of the Switch over the old version, but it is not the Switch Pro that we were definitely expecting. So I don't know. I'm excited for the OLED, but overall, I think I'm a little bit disappointed because I was expecting at least for 4K in docked mode. I think a lot of people are getting 4K displays nowadays and not even having like the system menu in like 4K. Like, I'm pretty sure like most Switch games wouldn't be able to run in 4K, but even like just, you know, slightly higher resolutions, not having that is kind of a bummer. Not having higher frame rates is a bummer. So what do you think? Do you think this Switch model is worth it for $350? Do you plan on getting one? Whether you're an existing owner or, you know, if you never owned a Switch before, is this the model that you're looking at going, okay, finally, they made a new model, I'm gonna buy this one? Or is this just like a big skip to you? And do you think that Nintendo will eventually give us a true Switch Pro? Or is this OLED model going to be, you know, the top of the line Switch until Nintendo releases their next console? Let me know in the comments below. This was the first video on the Greg Station channel. I've been, you know, planning to upload videos on here since November. So this was a great video, I think, to get started with. And then hopefully it means that I'll make some more. So thank you for watching. If you like the video, give me a like. If you want to see more from the channel and encourage me to upload more, make sure you're subscribed. And I will see you in the next video, hopefully. Take care, everyone.